So we're back with some more Championship action tomorrow. Let's jump into it. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Now, normally at the start of a week, I'll be doing an episode of the Championship Roundup, but as we only had a handful of games going on over the weekend, I thought that instead we do our regular sort of prediction video heading into the midweek fixtures with FIFA's predictions along with them. So throughout the video we'll be discussing all the action that took place over the weekend, and so as always feel free to get your thoughts on the weekend's action in the comments down below, and make sure to make your score predictions for all the games that we do have going ahead in midweek. Now, as has been the case with the last couple of game weeks, I wouldn't be surprised if more games end up getting postponed, so when you guys see this, some of the games that we talk about today may end up still getting postponed, as was the case last time. But at the moment we've just got to sort of roll with it, don't we? We've already had several games called off as of recording. Unfortunately, North End once again won't be in action in midweek, but we do have some games to talk about, so without any further ado, let's jump into them. So jumping over to Ewood Park, we're going to Blackburn up against Barnsley. Quite the interesting game this midweek. Obviously, neither side was in action over the weekend, with both games being postponed. Blackburn's game was, an absolute farce in the end, that ended up getting postponed against Hull just a couple hours before kickoff. You know, fans, I think they were bringing over 2,500 to that game against Hull. Fans who had already started travelling to that game. The fact that that is still happening will never sit right with me. You know, if a game's going to be called off, it needs to be done way more in advance than the Blackburn fans were given for that game, and so rightly so. Their fans and I think team were quite angry about that one being called off quite late against Hull. But heading into this one against Barnsley, once again seems like a decent fixture for Blackburn to be going into. They are still the form side in the league at the moment, having won their last 5 matches. They're scoring goals for fun, especially at Ewood Park at the moment, with their last game being that 4-0 demolition of Birmingham. Going up against this Barnsley side, who have showed a few maybe shoots of encouragement in some of their more recent performances. Obviously, they had that goalless draw with West Brom. West Brom themselves obviously haven't exactly been the most clinical sides as of late, as we'll discuss later on in the video. It was obviously another loss for West Brom over the weekend, but in that one they defended their box quite well, a lot of blocks and things like that. Helik was absolutely fantastic, and that back three had to be really resolute. What I feel could happen for this game though is if Blackburn do get that opening goal in the first sort of 20-25 minutes, from then on the floodgates could open, as they have with Blackburn a few times so far this season. So for a score prediction for this one, I'm going to go 3-0 Blackburn. I just feel like they'll have a bit of sort of pent-up frustration from their game at the weekend being postponed, that they'll just take it all out on Barnsley for this one. So I'm going to say 3-0 Blackburn. FIFA's going 1-0 Barnsley. That'll be a huge result. Next up then, and to Bloomfield Road. Both these sides were actually in action over the weekend, which is quite the rarity with Championship matches at the moment. But Blackpool losing 3-2 to Huddersfield, and Middlesbrough with a great 2-0 win over Forest to go ahead and climb into the top 6. The impact that Chris Wilder's had since arriving at the Riverside has been absolutely fantastic. But speaking about Blackpool, first of all, in the preview to their game at the weekend, we spoke about where their threats were going to come from in terms of Keshi Anderson and Josh Bowler. And in terms of creative outlets, they looked quite good at the weekend. Both of them picked up an assist, and going into half-time and with 30 minutes to go, they were in a pretty comfortable position, really, 2-1 up. But the red card for Jordan Lawrence-Gabriel came at a really bad time for them. They tried to alter things a little bit. I think they went to a back three to try and protect the lead, but a couple of Sorba Thomas goals with a bit of slack defending thrown in there. Ultimately, they couldn't weather that storm, being down to 10 men for 30 minutes, and ultimately quite a disappointing defeat, really, given the situation that they've gotten themselves into. This is going to be a really tough game at the weekend as well, because Middlesbrough are probably one of the form teams alongside Blackburn in the Championship at the moment. Ever since Chris Wilder has arrived there, even with some of their early games that they lost under him, there were still the signs of promise there. That was certainly the case over the weekend against Nottingham Forest, albeit they were handed a huge stroke of luck to take the lead in that one with that ridiculous own goal. But even after that, they were pressing and probing, they were creating chances, trying to play on the front foot, and I think they probably just about get through this game. Blackpool have been a little bit hit and miss recently. Obviously, they will be without Jordan Lawrence-Gabriel for this game, but they have the advantage of just throwing Dujon Sterling in there as that like like-for-like replacement, but Middlesbrough really seem to be on it at the moment, so I'm going to go 2-1 Middlesbrough in that game, with FIFA going for a 1-1 draw. Next then we head to Coventry up against Millwall. These two sides haven't played in absolutely ages. It's been like 2.5 weeks since we've last seen these two in Championship action. I think I completely forgot everything about them because I've not spoken about them in so long, but the 11th of December, the last time these two played Championship football, so it's going to be a bit of a weird scenario to come back into, because obviously training will have been affected in terms of like personnel being missing and things like that, having to quarantine and you know, shut certain things down at the training ground and things like that. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a funny one really, missing so much action recently for both clubs. Neither side was particularly on a great run before their postponed matches. Coventry without a win in their last 5, Millwall only 1 win in their last 5. The last game Millwall had before their games got suspended was that quite flat performance they had away at Peterborough as they fell to a 2-1 defeat. But saying that, the game before that was a really good performance against Birmingham, so Millwall have been a little bit hit and miss recently, and Coventry just seem to have dried up a little bit in terms of goals in the final third. So for a score prediction for this one, I'm going to play it safe, I think, and back a draw. I'm going to go for a 1-1 for that game, with FIFA going 2-0 Coventry. Next up then to Bournemouth up against Cardiff. Brilliant win for Bournemouth the other night as they saw off QPR by 1-0. Probably what's most pleasing from a Bournemouth point of view will be the clean sheet in that one. I think it was 6 games they'd gone prior to that game against QPR without keeping the ball out, and good resolute defensive performance whilst also creating chances going forward. You know, they probably should have had more than that 1 goal. They eventually went on to score in that game. There was the feeling that, you know, some of those missed chances would have come back to haunt them. You know, Dom Solanke missed a great chance before he obviously took the lead as he had a header just go over the bar, but really well taken goal by Solanke, and yeah, defended really quite well actually against a QPR side who do pose threats. I thought that everyone had a good game, you know, everyone in that back four looked quite stable. Jefferson Lerma shielded that back four really well. His presence in midfield could definitely be felt for that one, and so maybe this is where we see Bournemouth sort of clicking back up into gear, and we now see them go on a little bit of a run, because things before that had got a little bit sort of patchy in terms of their sort of patterns of play and how that was sort of lost for a little bit of time. But Parker seemed to get things back on track with that game against QPR. Obviously there was a bit of a coming together with everyone at the end with that eventual red card for Andre Dazelle, but other than that, really good performance from Bournemouth. And they're going up against a Cardiff side who haven't been in action for the last couple of weeks now. Once again, 11th of December, last time Cardiff were in action in the Championship, so hard to gauge really when it's been that long of a break where a team will actually be at this point in time. For Cardiff under Morrison, things have been a little bit up and down. Obviously they've made a bit of a name for themselves so far this season of being sort of second half masters. They're definitely a team who grows into games, so if Bournemouth can start this one strong, they may just have enough for Cardiff in this one. I'm going to go 2-0 Bournemouth as my prediction. FIFA's going 2-0 Cardiff. Just feel that maybe a run could be coming on for here for Bournemouth now. Next up then to Ashton Gate for Bristol City up against QPR. Now QPR were obviously in action the other night against Bournemouth, and quite a disappointing performance all things considered. I was really quite looking forward to that one, but I think that what we saw there from QPR's point of view was a side who hasn't been in action since the 5th of December, and ultimately when you're away for that long from, you know, the football pitch, when training gets interrupted by COVID issues and things like that, you're going to get maybe a little bit of a hangover, and I think that that's probably what we saw in that Bournemouth game. Albeit I don't think that Keith Stroud was probably the most popular man in that stadium come the full-time whistle. QPR, man for man, weren't as good as Bournemouth over the 90 minutes. I think that that's fair enough to say. Coming up against this game against Bristol City then though, they'll be looking for a reaction, and Bristol City have been involved in quite the high-scoring games recently. 9 goals have been scored in Bristol City's last 2 matches, both for and against them obviously. Last time out was quite disappointing for Bristol City, that 3-2 loss to Huddersfield, where I thought they were second best for the most of it. And for a score prediction, I'm going to back QPR maybe to bounce back in this one. 2 quite unpredictable sides here in Bristol City and QPR, but I'm going to go 2-1 QPR. FIFA's going to go 2-0 QPR. I just feel like they need to have a little bit more about them after how disappointing the weekend was against Bournemouth. Next up then, and to the City ground for Nottingham Forest up against Huddersfield. Nottingham Forest, decent unbeaten run coming to an end at the weekend at the hands of Middlesbrough. Obviously 2 sides there who are very much vying for places in the top 6 at the moment, and it was Middlesbrough who came out on top. A part of me thought that that was going to be the case when I saw the Nottingham Forest lineup coming into this game, being without, you know, Asai Tutu and Jed expense especially, Max Lowe added to that as well, really sort of limits Forest and their playing ability. I think those wing backs have been absolutely crucial to the way that Steve Cooper's set them up so far this season, and to be without that sort of natural width and athleticism on either side of the pitch really halted how they sort of progressed the ball, tried to get out of situations and things like that. And just in general, everyone looked a little bit misshapen for that match. Obviously, the free cone goal didn't exactly help things, but even after that, it was Middlesbrough who were by far and away the better team. And this isn't exactly the easiest of games to go ahead and bounce back in. Huddersfield have been in good goal-scoring form recently. You know, they've scored 6 goals now in their last couple of matches, 3 goals against Blackpool as they turned that one around, albeit the red card certainly helped proceedings. You know, they were trailing at the point when it was 11v11, but 2 fantastic finishes from Sorba Thomas, the equaliser especially, got Huddersfield back into that game. And similar to how important Forest's wing backs are, Huddersfield we can say exactly the same about. They're absolutely integral to getting them up and down the pitch. So once again, I think that that'll be an area where this game is won or lost, but with the way that Huddersfield are going at the moment, I could see them at least getting a point from this game. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw as my score prediction there, with FIFA going 1-0 Huddersfield. And as our last game to go over, we have Stoke going up against Derby. Derby obviously in action over the weekend with a fantastic 3 points against West Brom. Started the question, you know, rolling, can Derby go ahead and pull off the impossible and, you know, God forbid, survive this season? I still think it'll be a step too far, but brilliant spirited performance from that Derby side, and this is what we've seen from them so far this season, albeit there was, you know, a huge chunk of fortune in the goal. But the longer Derby stay in matches, and we've seen that brilliant defensive record, you know, come up to the forefront once again in that game against West Brom, the longer they stick in matches, they are going to have 1 or 2 moments. And this squad, which has just been sort of strung together really over the summer on sort of like freebies and, you know, free agents and the youngsters that they already had at the squad, have done an admirable job so far this season at where they currently are and how many points they've actually picked up, you know, if we're disregarding that point deduction. Going up against Stoke in this one, Stoke another one of those sides who haven't been in action for the past couple of weeks, so hard to say where they are at as a team at the moment coming into this game. Last time out was quite a drab game really. Stoke were involved in that 0-0 draw with Middlesbrough. The playoff picture is also quite hard to gauge at the moment because Stoke have dropped down to 8th in the table, but they do have 2 games in hand on the majority of teams above them, and only find themselves, you know, a point to throw away from going ahead and getting back into the top 6. I think Derby will make this one tough for Stoke though, and I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in this game. Wouldn't surprise me if that one's a fairly low scoring game. FIFA's gone for 1-0 Stoke, but yeah, once again I could see Derby getting something out of that game. There we have it though guys, those are my score predictions heading into the midweek championship games obviously. Fingers crossed we don't get all too many postponements coming and we at least have a reasonable amount of championship matches going on in midweek, because it's not great at the moment with all the sort of games being called off and things like that. You know, I've not got to watch North End in quite a while now, which is annoying. But as always, make sure to go ahead and get your score predictions in the comments down below. Carry on leaving your predictions in there. They will all be counted in terms of the prediction leaderboard, but it's all a bit muddled at the moment with obviously all the postponements going on and the quick turnaround of matches at the moment. But yeah, if you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular championship content. Apart from that, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.